What's up, guys? This is Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, back from vacation, bringing you our aABL Season 4 Week 5 match against ShinyKrabby and his Hitmontop Oss. His team consists of Latias, which is a Z user, Florges, Empoleon, Shaman, Electros, Ditto, Typhlosion, which is a Z user, Megalopony, Mamoswine, Terrakion, which is a Z user, Golbat, and Omastar. I was not expecting Shaman, Golbat, or Omastar to come. Golbat does come, which kind of shocks me over the Ditto or the Latias. I thought either of those were better options, or the Mamoswine. I thought all had really good matchups against my team, but we'll kind of go with how it is. His team is looking very Minior weak, to be honest, because of no Ditto. Minior kind of cleans up a little bit late game, in my opinion. I think Minior has a fantastic matchup against his team. We're running a lot of cool stuff. So I'll talk about it really quickly, and then we'll talk about something that I talked about in the team builder. Anyways, it's fine. We're bringing Spidef, Rotom-Wash, Fizdef, Skarmory. We're bringing Rocky MZ, mixed attacking. Minior, we're bringing Assault Vested Serena. We're bringing Hyper Voice, Focus Blast, Taunt, Sub, Mega Gardevoir. We're bringing Scarfed Weavile. So what I mentioned in the team builder, I filmed the team builder a really long time ago, and I didn't know Krabby's record coming into this week. He's actually 1-3 -6, so he's a little bit worse than we are at this point in time. And I'm looking to sort of get some revenge from D&D. He kind of smacked me both times that we battled in D&D, so I'd love to get a win here, and I think I have the matchup to do it, hopefully-ish. Hopefully-ish. Yeah, we've prepped relatively well for this match, I think. It's important that Skarmory is there to wall the Megalopony and the Terrakion. Golbat is basically the only setup fodder for Minior that I can see. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, at the very least. Mega Gardevoir doesn't have a fantastic matchup, but it can poke some holes if he doesn't have a really good switch-in. Florges isn't that great of a switch-in, so that's kind of where we're going with there. And Scarf Weavile actually looks like he can clean up late game as long as his ice resists are sort of dead, which is only the Empoleon. Yeah, if Empoleon's dead, then Weavile can sort of just clean up with Ice Punch later, I'm thinking. Dark isn't very good against the roster that he brought, so it's not super important that I kind of sweep with knockoff. And Brick Break is not looking fantastic, although it is looking it's looking good against half of his team, and then Florges and Golbat just handle Brick Break really well. Yeah, so I'm going to lead off with my Rotom-Wash, I think, because he's got no ground type. He didn't bring his Mamoswine, so I can just freely Volt Switch turn 1. That's kind of my thought process here, as he's going to lead Electros. So we can find out what sort of set this Electros is, see if it's Assault Vested or not based on this Volt Switch damage, as we see that it's actually not Assault Vested. It does look like it's max HP to me based on that damage. It's a resisted hit, and Eel has decent bulk. Along with max HP, it took that hit really well. We're not running, I don't think, any special attack investment. It's been a while since I recorded the team builder and actually built the team, sorry. So I'm not entirely sure on that, but it could be the case. And I'm just going to Volt Switch into, I believe, my Serena here, as he's going to knock off our Assault Vest. And that damage on the knockoff looks like it's about modest. It looks like it's a modest roll to me for knockoff. It's definitely either like a really low roll for a neutral nature, or it's a minus attacking nature. So we can assume that he's more specially biased with his set. Losing the Assault Fist there isn't the worst thing in the world, because Serena is he doesn't have a ton of special attackers. It's basically only Eel, potentially the Empoleon, and the Florges. And Serena is mostly here at this point now to block some priority from Megalopony, potentially from the Terrakion as well. There's no Mamoswine with Ice Shard. He could be bringing Aqua Jet on Empoleon, so I can block that too. I'm actually just going to click knock off this turn, as we see the leftovers. So I'm going to get rid of his leftovers, do a chunk of damage. Again, that looks like max HP, and the Volt Switch, again, kind of like modest to me. In comes the Terrakion, and he close combats, and he crits me. So we talked about this after the game, and he told me that he's actually adamant Terrakion, running almost no speed because he was Rock Polish. I don't know how much sense that makes to me. In my head, I think you would still want to outrun Mega Gardevoir to get a Poison Jab off and kill it. Otherwise, like, you have to rely on getting a Rock Polish up, which I don't think is a safe bet against my team. I have Skarmory that like almost hard walls Terrakion from the physical side if he doesn't get a Sword Stance up, and I have Skarmory's normally carry Whirlwind. I have things like Mach Punch on Girder. Dusclops could infinitely wall a Terrakion set if I was physically defensive as well. So, and you know, I could have like Ice Shard on Weavile and stuff like that. I was backing the Ice Shard on Weavile, but I'm not sure how safe it is to run an Adamant Terrakion against my team. I think that was maybe, you know, I think Krabby watches my videos from time to time, so I'm not going to say that it was a mistake necessarily, but I do, like, if I was prepping against my team, I definitely would not have brought an Adamant Terrakion. That just kind of shows how our thought processes are different. I also think that Ditto would have been fantastic against my team because on paper Minior absolutely smacked him, so that was kind of where I went for there. This close combat was still a roll even with the crit. No, was it a roll with the crit? Sorry, it was still a roll even if he was adamant. And at -1, a Trop Kick would have killed him, which is what I clicked. And then Terrakion would have been completely gone. That would have nullified a massive threat to my team. Terrakion was a big problem for me, but the crit kind of sucks a lot. And even though I was assuming it was Jolly and he had to get like close to a max roll with the close combat to kill me, I think it was like the second highest roll. So he had like a 2 out of 16 chance to kill me with that close combat if he didn't crit. So that crit sucks. That's the first instance of bad luck this game between the two sides. So now I'm going to go into my Rotom-Wash. A Hydro Pump will kill him here, so I'm assuming he's going to switch into something like the Floor just to tank the Hydro Pump, so I'm not actually just going to Volt Switch on out. And I actually make a really good read by doing that because he goes into Florges. That looks to be Calm, I think, but it's max HP Calm. I'm fairly certain it's max HP Calm. I don't have a whole lot for this now that Serena's dead because Serena was like my reasonable check to this, in a sense. Like Serena with Assault Vest could tank this for days. I maybe should have assumed that I was going to get knocked off at some point by Empoleon. Well, no, because his knockoff users aren't that obvious. Like he's got Empoleon, Electros, and Mamoswine. So, anyways, Mega Gardevoir comes in. I feel like I can get a sub up on this thing because it actually doesn't want to take any Hyper Voices if he's not running Special Defense Investment, which I can tell that he's not based on that Volt Switch damage. So I'm going to click sub as he's going to go into Empoleon, which seems to be his dedicated check. We can kind of assume this thing is Assault Vested at this point. I'm going to click Focus Blast here, and we're actually going to miss. As he's physically offensive and breaks our sub with the Liquidation. We were talking after the match about this as well, and it turns out that this is probably the biggest hacks that mattered the most, I guess you could say, because it looks like I was going to 2-hit KO him with the Focus Blast, so I did have to hit 2 Focus Blasts in a row to be able to KO his Empoleon, and I probably would not have risked that. I would have gone directly into Rotom-Wash afterwards, I would assume, but that was kind of how I wanted to play this, and unfortunately missing that Focus Blast will, well, you'll see later on in the battle that it's going to come back to bite me. So I'm going to go into Rotom now, as he's going to Steel Wing, which does absolutely no kinds of damage because I'm a Rotom and I resist it. And again, I'm just going to Volt Switch out on the floor just once again, and I believe this time I go back into Mega Gardevoir. Yeah, I think I'm just going to click Hyper Voice this time. Sorry, I taunt him because I predict that he's going to go for the Wish, and out comes the Wish, so it's a good play on my part again. Hyper Voice, I get a crit. That crit actually didn't matter. Sorry, that crit may have mattered if I got low rolled twice. So if I got the absolute low roll on both Hyper Voices, then it could have mattered. Obviously, he's not in a position to tank another Hyper Voice after that crit, but he wouldn't have been anyways, even if I didn't crit. It was still a 2 KO is what I'm trying to say. From that range, it looked like, to me, it was a 2 KO as long as he couldn't Wish. Out comes the Moonblast, doing a reasonable chunk of damage to me. Moonblast looks like it might kill me again. In comes the Empoleon. We can see that that thing is Assault Vested to high hell based on that damage. I actually was calculating on Calm Empoleon, which was a mistake on my part because I had seen Liquidation, so it shouldn't have been Calm because that's a minus attacking nature. But that thing takes the Hyper Voice really well. I think I go into Rotom-Wash again. Yeah, easy play as he's carrying the knockoff in the Empoleon. and gets rid of my leftovers. Big whip. Out comes my Volt Switch. He actually stays in and predicts me to stay in, I guess, and liquidates, predicting whatever coming in. I don't really know. But now I can get up my rocks with Skarmory, which is actually pretty useful, as he's going to knock off my leftovers in Skarmory. It doesn't really matter. Skarmory is sort of temporary wall to things like Lopunny and Terrakion. I mean, Skarmory's job really in the end was sort of to get up rocks and potentially like phase things over the rocks to chip things down enough for Minior to win. Minior was basically my only win con this game, and I felt that it was like the only win con that I had against his entire team anyways. Potentially Venomoth, but Venomoth didn't have that great of a matchup. Actually, you know what? Venomoth did have a reasonable matchup against his team. I can't lie. Venomoth would have been pretty clutch. The Empoleon would have basically been the only thing stopping Venomoth. But I was really scared of Ditto. I thought Ditto was coming, to be honest with you. I thought Ditto was going to come to copy even something like just Mega Gardevoir, because I don't have the best Hyper Voice switch-ins on my own team. So, anyways, Skarmory's in on the Empoleon, and I think I'm going to click Toxic now? I want to say I'm going to click Toxic now, him predicting my Roost going... No, I go into Rotom. Yeah, good play. In comes the Eel. I think I'm just going to Will-O-Wisp here. Yeah, we're just going to burn this thing and make sure you can't do much. And he shows off the Giga Drain again. Kind of what I was expecting damage-wise. I'm going to Volt Switch again, and he's slower, obviously. I think he's probably going to Volt Switch out. So I'm going to go to my Mega Guard, as he actually does Volt Switch out. If he had chosen to go for Giga Drain there, then Gardevoir basically gets a free kill, at least on the Eel or on something else. In comes the Mega Lopunny. Now, here is where I really would have loved to have a Serena, because I could have just switched it on it and blocked the Fake Out completely. But I'm going to go into Skarmory, and we'll see what kind of damage he's going to do. He obviously doesn't need to Fake Out because he knows that I'm slower than him. So he's going to go for the return at 16 damage. Like 16%, that's basically nothing. Goes back into Eel here, as I actually clicked Toxic that turn. What I should have done was click Whirlwind, and sort of phase some things over some rocks. It would have been nice to bring maybe the Empoleon in again, get some more chip damage on that, or the Florges would have been a worst case scenario, because then he could have put up a Wish and then passed that into something else. But yeah, so Eel comes in here on my Toxic, which is obviously not going to affect him. So what am I going to do now? Oh, I'm going to go into Gardevoir and just sack off my Gardevoir here, as he's going to Volt Switch out. So now I get the momentum because he has to go into his Empoleon. I'm going to go Weavile and him... Okay, so I'm going to predict him predicting my Knockoff, if that makes any sense. Because Knockoff looks like it's a roll to kill from this range to max HP Empoleon. And I actually found out after the game that he wasn't running any HP investment at all, so Knockoff would have definitely killed him. I'm predicting Terrakion to come in. That thing's at full HP, and it's a really good switch into Dark-type attacks, especially because I think Golbat is maybe a reasonable switch into Weavile. And Florges is going to, at the range that Florges is at, it's getting 2-hit KO'd by the Knockoff anyways, so, especially without its leftovers, so. I'm going to go for the Brick Break here instead, as he's going to go into his Terrakion, and we'll click the Brick Break, and it does quite a bit of damage. That crit, again, didn't matter. You'll see that it was doing about 50% without the crit. That did 75 with the crit, so we can say that it was doing about 50% with the crit. Which means that I would have 2-hit KO'd this thing, and because I'm Scarfed, I would have outsped a Scarf Terrakion anyways. We know that, I actually know that he's not Scarf Terrakion, based on playing this game, but I'm going to click Brick Break again, I think, as the Golbat comes in, and yeah, that says nothing, right? I'm predicting him to sort of want to, I'm predicting him to either want to Defog or Brave Bird, and he actually makes a really good play, because of how low Terrakion is, Minior and how low Florges is, and how low Empoleon is, and how low Eel is, Minior looks like he can just sweep from this point in the game, to be completely honest with you. I can like Rocky MZ I don't know what I would Rocky MZ actually. I might have not even used Rocky MZ at this point in the game, but either way, I'm going to go to Minior here, as he's actually going to U-turn out, which is a really good play on his part. I was really predicting the defog, to be honest, as Electros comes in and it's just going to die, so Rotom-Wash actually gets that kill with the burn. Terrakion's going to come in here, Terrakion's going to kill me, so I'm going to go into Skarmory, as he actually shows off the Z move now, so we know that he's not Scarfed, and I'm kind of assuming a Double Dance Z move at this point. Going to Weavile, now I can click Ice Punch, which is going to do a lot. In comes the Empoleon. I actually should have clicked Knockoff. I was debating clicking Knockoff over Ice Punch, but I didn't want Mega Lopunny to switch in on the Knockoff super well, so I went for the Ice Punch, and it does nothing. right? Like, it does absolutely nothing to this Empoleon. A knockoff would have killed this thing, and it would have been out of my life, and then I wouldn't have had to deal with it anymore. And he probably would have gone to Mega Lopunny. I could have sacked the Rotom or something, gone back into my Weavile, and then clicked Brick Break, and who knows, right? But unfortunately, he's going to be in. And Rotom-Wash can tank one Liquidation, and then I can get a Will-O-Wisp off and burn this thing, which is going to be really good as another Liquidation comes out and kills me, obviously. One thing to note here, because I'm going to go into my Minior, I'll actually just bring out Minior here. So I actually think that I'm going to win this game right now, because it's my chance to click Shell Smash and sweep through his team at this point, because I don't think that this Empoleon can do enough, and then with the damage calc that I'm running, Empoleon can't do enough, and then the combination of Mega Lopunny and Terrakion also cannot do enough with their moves. So I'm going to click Shell Smash here, and even at -1 defense, I was actually calculating at -2 defense, because I thought it's late at night. I've been on an airplane for 7 hours today, and yeah, that's just how my brain was working going through this match. But what I failed to realize is that he's in Torrent range. I kind of just assumed he'd be Defiant for my Defogs, especially if he's a physical attacker. I felt like Defiant, I mean, all the props to him, right? Torrent ended up working out this game, but I genuinely feel that Defiant was a better option to switch in on my Skarmory's Defog if he wanted to get up his own hazards. So now obviously he didn't bring his own hazards, or at least I don't think he did. I don't know his last move on the Terrakion. Excuse me, I know he had Quick Attack. No, I do. He definitely had Stone Edge, Quick Attack, Rock Polish, and Close Combat. So the Terrakion didn't have rocks, and the Empoleon didn't have rocks, and he didn't bring anything else with any other hazards. So, you know, good. Like, obviously he didn't need the Defiant because he didn't bring any hazards. But in my mind, I thought he was Defiant. So that's kind of where we're going from there. And I just didn't. Torrent is a forgettable ability for me. So I'm thinking that he's burned. Because he's burned, Liquidation isn't going to do crap to me. But because I'm in Meteor form as well, I get boosted defenses. So I'm going to click Shell Smash here, and at -1, he's actually still going to kill me with the Liquidation. So in hindsight, I actually should have probably just killed him and then Rocky MZ'd the Florges. And then cleaned up with Weavile late game. I actually think I probably could have won the game if I'd done that instead. But now I have to go to Weavile, and I can't click Knockoff because Mega Lopunny wins otherwise. So I have to click Ice Punch and tank a hit from this thing. Which is silly, again. And, you know, Weavile's going to pick up the Empoleon, but then he can just go Mega Lopunny. He's going to live the Ice Punch. Even after Rock's damage, he's going to live it quite handily, I think. Yeah, it only does 40, and it does about 50, so let's do a KO, and then Return kills me. So, we have losing the game 4-0. Hindsight's 2020, right? Like, I really should have just tried to kill that thing with Minior instead of trying to do anything else like that, because Minior could have cleaned up a few things, actually. And potentially Weavile would have been put in a spot where it could have just clicked, like, Knockoff, potentially, or Ice Punch late game, right? Maybe get some damage off on Lopunny with my Minior, because Minior would have outsped the Terrakion, the Golbat, and the Florges. I could have, if I was, you know, no, I probably would have had to. I would have had to Rocky MZ the Florges, I think, which likely would have killed it, because he wasn't max Spadef. And then Golbat would have had to come in on rocks again, and that thing dies to a Power Gem. Terrakion at the range that it was at, I was outspeeding it, and no, I might not have outsped it. He would have had to hit a Stone Edge at the very least, and Earthquake would have picked that off, or a Power Gem probably would have picked that off based on 13%. And Mega Lopunny would have, at the very least, had to tank an Earthquake or had to hit a high jump kick. So, in the end, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about how this game played out. I'm a little bit disappointed in myself, to be honest, but we'll hopefully bounce back next week when we take on my good friend Dom or Rudiger. We're taking on him. Unfortunately, we got to play Jay, and then Krabby, and then Rudiger 3 weeks in a row, and in my opinion, those are my three hardest matches. There's actually, the Boston Bronzongs are kind of kicking butt and taking names, and I have him in week 10, so we'll see how that goes. But, you know, I'm still in a relatively strong position to make playoffs, I feel. So, anyways, I'll see you guys for week 6 when we take on Rudiger and the Team Builder.